Hi, welcome to our talk. Today we're going to be talking about customizing your dashboard design in Shiny. I'm Abby, a data scientist at Data Cove, and this is Jeremy, the founder of Data Cove. So before we even get into the talk, let's talk a little bit about who Data Cove are. We are R, Python, and Shiny experts, and we work across three main sectors. Customer analytics, so who's your best customer and where to find more of them. Marketing analytics, like what's working best for you and where could you save some money. And process automation, so taking that one painful bit of your business away forever. But we also do a lot more. So, like you can see, we work in dashboards. That's why we're here today to talk to you a little bit about Shiny. We also do training in R, Python, Shiny, and data science concepts for individuals and for companies. And we're also really big on the community as well. So we run events across Manchester, London, Brighton, Bristol, Portsmouth, and Birmingham, with our crown jewel of the Earl conference that we run every year too. So let's get into the project aims now of our Shiny dashboard. So our dashboard covers four main areas: health, well-being, nature, and sustainability. So for like nature, it's data sets like the bat and the bee population. For sustainability, it's like green infrastructure. And these all harmonize together to create a great place for people to live. But this wouldn't have been possible without the partners that we've worked with. So we had people help on the local authority pilots like Surrey County Council, Norfolk, and Liverpool. We also had website hosts, engagement collaborators, academic publishing, and other steering groups as well to make sure that we provide research to make our tool better. So let's talk a little bit about the challenge. Why was it needed? Well, we have both sides of the spectrum here. If any of you guys have worked with government data before, you'll probably understand that it can be quite hard to find one direct answer to a question. We would find that actually there were huge lists of relevant data with no theoretical guidance as to how to interpret them. And then you have the other side of the spectrum. We had a lot of simplification of diverse data sets into one single metric. And we needed something that was a good in-between, that was intuitive and really straightforward to use. So we went on to create, obviously, the Shiny dashboard. But why did we choose Shiny? Well, Shiny has a lot of well-connected API connectors for local data, and we were using a bit of a mix. We were using APIs, we were using CSVs, so it was a great fit for us. We also needed greater flexibility as well. We wanted it to look bespoke, customized, beautiful, and Shiny gave us the platform to do so. And it was also cost effective as well for a team to access this. So Jeremy's going to get a little bit into how we actually did it.
Absolutely. And Abby's just mentioned there about bespoke, and I think that's a really important word when it comes to Shiny. So how do we make it bespoke? What can we do? And I think the great thing with Shiny is there's lots of different levers that you can pull. So first of all, this is not an I hate ggplot2 slide. I'm not going to stand here or sit here as I am today and diss probably one of the biggest packages in R, particularly just after its 18th birthday. But one of the really cool things with a Shiny dashboard is making that dynamic so that you can have a look at how data moves and how data changes, but also you can interact with it. You can see a very simple visual here on the left-hand side of a chart. But not only is it a chart, we can hover over it, we can look at the tooltips, and we can have a look at each individual data point numerically as well as graphically. This is done using a package called HighCharter, so HighChart ER. It's dynamic, it's more interactive, and particularly when you're building web applications, it renders in a really, as you can see, clean fashion on the web. So it's not that static nature of a ggplot2, and this is already more engaging, more bespoke, more dynamic for the users. The chart library within HighCharts as well just goes that little bit deeper than ggplot. So I'm not saying stop using ggplot. That's great if you're doing quick, rough and ready visualizations, you want to put something into a report. But when you're looking at web applications, when you want to look at clean, as you can see the lines here are really clean in the way that they've been rendered, clean charts that allow a little bit more user engagement, HighChart is great. Now, what's even better is that if you've used ggplot2, as I'm sure many of our users have, you'll see that the code from high charts to ggplot2 is actually very similar. They both have the same structure. You start almost, if you imagine when you draw your charts in your maths lessons at school, you start with a blank bit of paper, you draw out your axes, then you start to think, what chart do I want? You give it a title, you put some color into it, you put some labels into it. And it's exactly the same as ggplot2. You think you start with that blank bit of paper and build it up from scratch. So if you've used ggplot2 before, the barriers to entry to go and build your own high chart are actually really low. And I'd highly recommend just spend a little bit of time getting to grips with the basics. The other great thing with high charts is you can use the pipe. You don't have to use the plus. So you can already start working in tidyverse and stay in this tidyverse notation without having to put the plus or put a pipe instead of a plus by mistake and then find out everything's gone wrong. Moving beyond the chart, there's a lot more that you can do with the interface. Now, if you've built a Shiny application before, you probably look at it and it's like, that looks like a Shiny app. There are so many applications built in Shiny. I know that's built in Shiny. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but we wanted to move away from there and actually start thinking about how can we put some of our own branding onto this application. Now, the core thing within Shiny is you can use other languages. So we're going to talk a bit about JavaScript and CSS. I am by no means a JavaScript or CSS expert, but I'll talk to you about how we can use it within Shiny. That said, you yourselves do not need to be experts in JavaScript, CSS, HTML, any other languages to be able to do this. There are some basic things that you can put in that just make the app look a little bit better. And we're going to talk about classes and identifiers. So I'm going to put an example here. We've created a class here for this big red bar at the top. That's called a top bar, as you can see from the custom code that I've put in. Now you can put this at the top of your script within Shiny. You can put it in a separate CSS file as well and load that in when you build the application. That's completely up to you. But within the code here, we've set our background color. So I promise you this will give you that lovely red that you're seeing here. We've set a color, an overall color for the bar itself. We can align text. We can change the way things are displayed. We can put things in the center and the left and the right. So we've set up a top bar. But then beyond that, we can then start to use kind of identifiers. So within a top bar, what are the individual elements? We've got an icon here, we've got some text here, we've got a drop-down box on the right-hand side. So we can start to use the individual elements within this top bar and identify them as a subset of that top bar. And then when you're building your Shiny code, you just put this class into your row or your column or whatever part of that application you're using. Now we've set up quite a few things as classes within this app, so I'm just going to show you another one. So looking at these boxes here, this is an example of the Wellbeing app. Within the Wellbeing application, we're looking at comparing local data with national averages. So we've set up our local boxes here, which are our light blue boxes. I know this is a prototype, we haven't quite got the rounded corners on here yet. When you see the demo, you'll see that we've rounded our corners off. And we've got the same for our darker blue national bar as well. And then, as you can see here, calling the top insight rows, we've just used that class within our column to say, we've got a top insight rows. Our identifier here is a dynamic row. So we've set up a dynamic row, which allows that row to change from one bit of the app to another. Just to talk about fonts a little bit as well. So Shiny's got a few preloaded default fonts and they're fine. And again, they look like a Shiny app. If you want to bring your own branding, your own fonts, your own faces into that application, it's really easy. You can use Google Fonts. You can use the extra font package within R that loads. God knows how, I can't remember how many last time I looked at it, but God knows how many fonts into your R application so that you can use them within Shiny. And that means if you've got brand guidelines, a brand font that you put over everything, you can use that within your Shiny application. It makes it feel a little bit more like yours and like your own thing. Beyond fonts, there is also the argument or the idea of accessibility. So I'm going to talk a bit about accessibility. We're creating charts and information here that we want anybody to be able to consume. And when we talk about anybody, it's not just people that can go and look at a chart and say, oh, I can see a line that's going up or a line that's going down, and I can see that it's blue. Some people can't visualize that line clearly. Some people have screen readers on their machines that will tell them exactly what the line's doing or what the page they're looking at is showing. So this is what we mean by accessibility. And there's a few things that you can do. One of the great things about this particular project was we actually factored in an accessibility audit, and it came back with a few top tips. The first one is fonts and colors. So, just make sure that you have the right kind of writing on the right color. If you've got a light gray box, don't put some white writing on it because people aren't going to be able to see that clearly. But also making sure the font is big enough for people that maybe they're not quite at the stage of using a screen reader to read things, but they want to be able to see things in an easily digestible and accessible way. So we had a font size of 20 that we adopted, or minimum font size of 20. You'll see some that are bigger across the app. It makes it easier to read, but it also means it looks clearer and cleaner on the screen. With HTML, there are some very simple things you can do. If people do have screen readers on, as simple as telling them the language this is written in is English is a really important way to start. But also looking at your back end, so HTML tags, making sure they're set up correctly, if I can talk properly, and your ARIA attributes are correct on your back end. It just means that when people are trying to think about what information they're taking out of the chart, the screen readers can read it properly. And then visual impairments. All of the charts that you see, particularly when we come to the demo in a moment, they've all got a tag on the back of them. And that tag is just written, it's a sentence of plain English, and it says, this is a chart showing well-being scores over time for the last 10 years, and the overall trend is up. So when the screen reader reads that, it can tell the person that's trying to access the information exactly what they should be seeing. Okay, so demo. Now I'm never brave enough to do a live demo. So this is pre-recorded. So you can see we've got an application here. We're looking at an example of the wellbeing dashboard, which is the one that we looked at before. And what we're going to do is we're going to select a local authority in the top right-hand corner. So I'm in Brighton. Brighton's my favourite city. So I'm just going to put Brighton in there. Don't want my neighbours over the road in Ada. Look, they missed collecting their data in 2019 anyway. So we've got 4 tabs here, and you can see we're looking at anxiety. Now that's coloured in blue. That denotes the fact this is the tab we're on. And we can see our scores in Brighton, again, using the tooltip in high charts to have a look at how that score has changed over time. And we can compare that to the national line in blue. Now, this isn't looking great because we're more anxious than everybody nationally in Brighton. I mean, I personally don't feel it, but maybe some people do. You can then, on the left-hand side, view your raw data over here. And this also gives us more information about the index we're looking at and then how to find out more from the public health profiles online. We've got our top insight boxes. So we've got the Brighton score here with the most recent year, 2022, against the national score. If we go onto the happiness tab, again, the happiness goes into light blue, all the others into grey, and we can visualize the data in the same way. And you can see with high charts, it's really clean and easy to take data sources off just by clicking on them, and then you can put them back on by clicking on them again. And it's the same for the life satisfaction and the worthwhile tabs of the wellbeing app as well. And naturally, you can then go and change your local authority. So you can go back here where I've got Brighton. If you wanted to look at another local authority, you can drop that in and look at your favourite place in the UK. And all the other applications work in a very similar way. So whilst it would be lovely to watch that video again, I think we'll move on. So the bit that you're all waiting for, I'm sure everyone wants to know, what packages have we used? How have we created this? How have we made it look the way that it looks right now? Data integration was a big part. Abby spoke earlier on about CSV files, about using API data as well. We've used a lot of ONS data. So ONSR is a big API connector within this package. But if you're trying to bring in additional APIs, JSON Lite and HTTR work really well together to be able to do that. From a data cleaning perspective, naturally the tidyverse was really important. We did initially have some maps in there. Tidy Geocoder was really helpful with that. And then from a visualization perspective, I've already spoken about high charts, which kind of links quite well to our charts as well. Shiny.js allows you to put those JavaScript applications into your Shiny app. and we've spoken about extra font too. Great. So that's shiny all over. Now, we did touch upon Earl at the beginning, and I kind of feel that we can't let the moment go without touching upon Earl again. This is our flagship, R and Python. Oh, Python, yeah, R and Python. All right, we'll say Python, and we won't say it again. Conference. It takes place in Brighton, so it's taking place this year at the Hilton Metropole Hotel. Wonderful venue on Brighton seafront. 3 days from the 14th to the 16th of October. We've got people coming from all over the world. I think we practically have every continent covered in the attendee list. We've got 45 amazing industry speakers with a real diverse range. We've got charity to healthcare to financial services to marketing. There literally is something for everybody. We've got groundbreaking keynotes from Wes McKinney. He codes in another language that I said I won't mention again, so we won't talk about that. But we've also got the crazy Eric Drass, the amazing Rachel Keane, and a wonderful panel that will help you if you're a data-driven decision maker or help you make better data-driven decisions. And we've also got hands-on workshops on the Tuesday as well. So workshops from AI, again to Shiny, Markdown, Quarto. There's something in there for everybody. If you want to come and join us at Earl, and quite honestly, you should come and join us at Earl, we're really pleased to be able to offer you a 10% discount on your ticket today. So I'm sure at home you're getting your phones out, getting that QR code, and when you get onto the web page, if you put CO Data 25, you'll get 10% off any and all Earl tickets that you see. So we are looking forward to seeing many of you with us in Brighton in October. And as if that wasn't enough, we have a wonderful evening event at one of the oldest and most iconic buildings in Brighton, this beautiful Royal Pavilion that we've depicted on a hex. If you want to get your hands on this hex, you just have to come and join us. And with that, I'd love to say thank you, and naturally, we're happy to open the floor to any questions.